Captain Elias Wren adjusted the collar of his uniform as he stepped off the small transport shuttle. The metallic corridors of Xeron Prime Station gleamed under the artificial lights, reflecting the polished insignias of hundreds of alien species walking purposefully past him. This station was a hub of commerce and politics, a place where fortunes were made and reputations forged. And today, Elias had come not for trade, not for diplomacy, but for the legendary auction that drew the galaxy's most daring and ambitious buyers. He moved calmly through the bustling crowd, his boots making soft echoes on the metallic floor. Around him, creatures of every shape and color examined holographic displays, negotiated in languages he barely recognized, and flaunted exotic attire that reflected their world's customs. Yet none could ignore the subtle aura of confidence Elias carried. Humans were rare in these halls, bold humans even rarer. And here was one, stepping into a den of interstellar power players without hesitation. The auction hall itself was colossal. Ceiling-high screens projected the upcoming items, while floating platforms displayed exotic goods. Rare minerals that shimmered with inner light, starship components rumored to be centuries old, and weapons designed with technology beyond the imagination of most species. But in the center of it all, on a pedestal of reinforced energy beams, was the Warship. It was massive, yet elegant. Its hull gleamed with polished alloy, engraved with ancient symbols. This ship was said to be unmatched in both speed and firepower, built by a guild long thought the guardians of advanced starship design. The crowd murmured with anticipation. Many had traveled light years for the chance to bid, hoping to claim it as their prize. None had expected a human to even enter the hall, much less to compete. Elias walked slowly toward the pedestal. He let his eyes scan the crowd. There was Xylar, a reptilian merchant whose arms were longer than most humans' legs, scanning potential buyers with sharp, calculating eyes. Nearby, a cluster of Cephalorians, beings with translucent skin and glowing internal organs, whispered among themselves. And above, floating in a levitating chair, a drone-like auctioneer projected calm authority, its multifaceted sensors scanning every attendee. The auctioneer's voice echoed across the hall, translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. Welcome, esteemed guests, to the Xeron Prime Grand Auction. Today, we present treasures from across the galaxy. The highlight of this gathering is before you. The legendary warship, Orion's Pride. Bidding begins at 100 million galactic credits. A ripple ran through the crowd. The opening bids came quickly, some rising to unimaginable numbers. Alien factions leaned in, their long fingers hovering over control pads. Each bidder tried to outshine the others, using gestures, projections, and persuasive words. Elias remained still, observing quietly. He had not come to rush. He had studied this moment for months, understanding not only the ship, but the psychology of those who sought to claim it. Many would rely on intimidation. Some would attempt to confuse. And yet, here he stood, a human, calm and unshaken. Finally, after a pause that drew all eyes toward him, Elias raised his hand slightly. The motion was subtle, almost casual, but enough to catch attention. The crowd hushed. A human was bidding. A voice from the reptilian Xylar hissed sharply, "That human dares?" It was more question than statement, yet the disdain was clear. Others murmured, exchanging glances of curiosity and amusement. Humans were clever, yes, but bold enough to claim a legendary warship? That was unheard of. Elias's voice was calm when he spoke, his words carrying clearly through the hall. "I bid 105 million credits." The effect was immediate. Some gasped. Others laughed softly, certain it was a mistake. But the warship seemed to react. Its sensors glowed faintly, a gentle hum vibrating through the floor. A subtle movement suggested recognition. Among the crowd, whispers spread. The ship seemed aware. The auctioneer's drone-like sensors focused on Elias. "Interesting," it said, its voice neutral but slightly modulated to convey intrigue. "A human bidder. Not common in auctions of this caliber. Shall we proceed?" "Yes," Elias replied, steady and measured. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He understood something fundamental. Respect from the ship would not be bought. It would be earned. The alien bidders adjusted, some raising their bids incrementally. Each tried to assert dominance, to make the human step back. Yet Elias did not move. He met their eyes calmly, conveying that he belonged here, not by lineage or wealth alone, but by courage and understanding. As the bids climbed higher, subtle tension filled the hall. The warship's hum grew slightly louder, its systems quietly aligning. Observers noted its strange behavior. Legends spoke of ships that recognized leadership, machines that could sense intent and judgment. And yet, never before had one responded to a human in such a way. Xylar, growing impatient and frustrated, leaned over his console. "It is impossible," he hissed. "This human has no understanding, no right." But the warship's slight adjustment toward Elias contradicted his words. The crowd noticed, and disbelief spread like wildfire. Elias continued to stand, patient and poised. He did not increase his bid hastily, nor did he try to intimidate. Instead, he allowed the moment to unfold, letting the subtle connection with the ship establish itself. It was a test, and the test was not of wealth, but of character. The Cephlorians whispered among themselves. Could it be true? A human commanding respect? Their voices were barely audible. But the ripple effect was noticeable. Even some seasoned alien bidders paused, reevaluating their strategy. Humans were clever, but Elias displayed a calm intelligence that few could ignore. Suddenly, the warship's hum shifted. Its sensors pivoted directly toward Elias, and a small energy bow, a ceremonial gesture of acknowledgement, glimmered faintly. It was subtle, but enough to make the crowd gasp. Whispers grew into chatter. The auctioneer's drone paused, analyzing. The auction hall was no longer just a place for transactions. It had become a stage, and Elias, a single human among hundreds of alien elites, had captured its focus. He understood the significance. This was not merely about winning a warship. It was about showing the galaxy that humans could earn recognition without force, that courage, calm, and understanding mattered even in the most alien of halls. As the bids continued, Elias maintained his composure. He observed each competitor, noting weaknesses, predicting reactions. Every subtle gesture, every slight hesitation gave him insight. And the warship, sensing his intent, remained calm, almost patient. It was as if the ship understood that this human was different. Hours passed, yet Elias did not falter. The alien bidders, initially dismissive, began to recognize that their assumptions were flawed. A human, once considered inexperienced and naive, was showing a depth of understanding few could match. The atmosphere in the hall shifted from amusement to cautious respect. By the time the first major break in the bidding occurred, whispers had grown into audible discussion. "A human," one Cephlorian said, "has earned acknowledgement from a ship no one thought could be persuaded." Others nodded silently, observing Elias with newfound interest. Elias allowed himself a small smile. He knew the real challenge was just beginning. The warship's recognition was the first step. Winning the auction was the next. But more importantly, he had demonstrated something that could not be measured in credits or alien influence. Human ingenuity, patience, and courage were forces to be respected in the galaxy. The stage was set, the players aligned, and the auction for the legendary warship had transformed into a test far greater than wealth. It was now a story of recognition, respect, and the quiet power of one human standing undaunted among the galaxy's elite. As the sun of Xeron Prime reflected through the massive observation windows, glinting off the hull of the warship, Elias took a deep breath. This was only the beginning. And somewhere deep within the warship's core systems, a subtle acknowledgement pulsed, almost as if the machine itself had chosen to watch this human closely. The crowd did not yet understand the meaning of what they had witnessed. But Elias did. The human had arrived. The hall remained charged with tension. Elias Wren stood calmly, his eyes fixed on the legendary warship, its polished hull gleaming under the auction hall lights. Around him, alien bidders murmured, some casting curious glances, others clearly annoyed by the audacity of a human daring to participate. Xylar, the reptilian merchant, leaned closer to his console, his tail flicking nervously. "How can a human even understand the power of such a vessel?" he hissed to a nearby associate. His sharp eyes darted to Elias, noting the quiet confidence that radiated from the human. The auctioneer drone floated slightly higher, sensors scanning the room with mechanical precision. "Current bid, 105 million galactic credits," it announced. "Shall we continue?" Several alien bidders reacted immediately, adjusting their own bids with rapid taps on their consoles. Each increase was meant to intimidate, to make the human back down. But Elias made no move. He understood the psychology at play. The warship was not just a machine. It responded to intent, judgment, and courage. Elias raised his voice slightly, calm but firm. "I will increase my bid to 115 million credits." A collective gasp swept through the hall. Aliens whispered in disbelief. A human, they thought, should not command such authority. Yet the warship responded in a subtle way. Its sensors brightened, and a low hum vibrated across the floor, drawing attention from everyone present. Xylar's claws clicked against his console in frustration. "This is absurd. A human cannot own such power. No one allows it." His voice carried an edge of fear, masked as indignation. But Elias did not react. He understood that intimidation was their strategy. Humans often underestimated alien assumptions, and he would use that to his advantage. He had studied the behaviors of these bidders for months, preparing not just to bid, but to make the warship choose him. The warship itself seemed to sense the tension. Its energy bow flickered faintly, a gesture of awareness, rare among any ship, rarer still for a human. Whispers grew louder. "It's recognizing him," said one of the Cephlorians, a translucent being whose organs glowed faintly under its skin. No one thought a human could influence it. Elias did not respond to the murmurs. Instead, he focused on the system readings projected in front of him. The ship's AI showed subtle signs of decision-making. It was testing him, weighing intent against experience. The hall had become silent, each alien watching closely as the human continued to command the atmosphere with quiet confidence. One of the major bidders, a large alien with 6 arms, attempted to overbid quickly, hoping to scare Elias. 140 million credits, it roared, voice reverberating through the hall. Elias paused only briefly, then raised his hand. 145 million credits, he said calmly. The room froze. The alien's eyes narrowed. He does not flinch, it muttered, unable to hide the surprise. The warship reacted almost instantly. Its sensors rotated fully toward Elias. A subtle alignment of its energy fields suggested recognition, acknowledgement not given lightly. The murmurs grew. Many alien bidders looked uneasy. None had seen such a human before, and the behavior of the warship seemed impossible. Xylar hissed, "This is dangerous. The ship obeys him. It should not obey a human." Elias, however, remained calm. He knew that the warship's reaction was the key. If he could demonstrate understanding and respect, the ship would remain loyal. Aggression would only break the delicate balance. A smaller alien, sleek and blue-scaled, whispered to its neighbor, "Why is it obeying him? The legends. The ship chooses the worthy, but it should not recognize humans." Elias raised his voice again, steady and measured. 150 million credits, he announced. His tone carried more than numbers. It carried intent, courage, and calm authority. The warship responded by extending a small section of its hull outward, a symbolic gesture only seen in the presence of worthy commanders. The auctioneer drone paused, its sensors whirring softly. Remarkable. The warship exhibits signs of recognition. No human has ever experienced this, it announced, voice modulated for clarity across all languages. The alien bidders grew restless. Some attempted to increase their bids in rapid succession, hoping that the human would falter. But Elias was prepared. Each response from him was calculated, demonstrating patience rather than rashness. He understood that the warship could sense thoughtful intent, and the calm confidence of a human was as powerful as any weapon or wealth. The warship's energy bow shifted slightly downward, a subtle sign of acknowledgement, almost imperceptible if one did not know where to look. But the auction hall noticed. A quiet hum filled the room, the kind that suggested a living presence within the machine. Xylar could no longer hide his frustration. He slammed a claw against his console. "It bends to him. It should not do this. We are seasoned buyers, yet it bows to a human." Elias finally allowed himself a small smile, though his voice remained steady. "Respect is earned, not bought," he said. The simplicity of the statement carried weight. The warship, perhaps sensing the truth in his words, pulsed again. Its lights glimmered across the hall in a pattern resembling a slow, deliberate nod. The Cephlorians, who had been silent, whispered among themselves in astonishment. "This human. He has made the ship choose him," one said. No one believed it possible. A tense silence fell over the room. The auctioneer drone hovered motionless for a few moments before announcing, "Current bid, 150 million credits, held by Captain Elias Wren, human of Earth. The warship Orion's Pride exhibits recognition of this bidder." Gasps filled the hall. Aliens glanced at each other nervously. Recognition from the warship was rare, and the fact that it acknowledged a human was almost unheard of. Whispers spread like wildfire. "The human is not just a bidder. He may be worthy of command." The alien with 6 arms tried to regain composure. "This is preposterous," it growled. "A human does not understand the complexity of such power. It obeys him now, yes. But can he maintain control?" Elias listened, silent and patient. He knew that control would not come from force, but from mutual understanding. He had studied the ship's AI patterns, the ancient codes, and the behaviors that indicated loyalty. He would not dominate it, he would earn it. The next bid came from Xylar, a sharp increase meant to intimidate. 160 million credits, he snapped, voice dripping with challenge. Elias raised his voice, calm but firm. 165 million credits. The warship responded instantly, sensors focusing fully on Elias. A low hum resonated through the hall, almost like a heartbeat. Observers froze. Some began to whisper about the human's potential, the uncanny ability to communicate with a machine previously considered untouchable. Tension filled the room. The alien bidders had begun to doubt their assumptions. Humans were clever, yes, but bold enough to compete at this level? Rare. And yet, here was Elias, standing undaunted in the center of an alien-dominated hall, commanding attention, commanding respect. Xylar hissed once more, frustrated. "This is not supposed to happen. The warship, it bends to him." The auctioneer drone floated silently, analyzing the situation. Observation. Captain Elias Wren demonstrates qualities consistent with historic patterns of leadership recognized by the warship, unprecedented in a human. Elias remained still. He did not increase his bid further for a moment. Instead, he allowed the tension to settle, letting the room, the competitors, and the warship itself acknowledge his calm authority. The pause was deliberate. It showed that he did not act recklessly. His decisions were measured, his intent clear. The Cephlorians, observing the interaction, exchanged nods. "Perhaps humans are underestimated," one whispered. "He has made the ship choose him, and he does not even flaunt it." The warship's energy bow shifted slightly downward again, a sign of acknowledgement that only a few astute observers could notice. The hall remained quiet, all eyes fixed on Elias. For the first time, aliens were not just competing for a ship, they were witnessing a human who could inspire recognition and respect through wisdom and courage. Hours seemed to pass in the tense quiet. Elias did not flinch. He understood that this was more than an auction. This was a moment in which human potential was being measured against centuries of alien hierarchy. And in this moment, he had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and patience could command attention where wealth and force alone could not. As the session ended for the day, Elias withdrew slightly, allowing the warship to remain focused on him. The aliens left murmuring, some in disbelief, some in quiet admiration. The legend of a human who could make a warship acknowledge him was already spreading. Elias looked at the ship one last time before leaving the hall. Its sensors pulsed faintly, a quiet acknowledgement that promised more to come. He understood that winning the auction would not be the end. It would be the beginning of a story that the galaxy would not soon forget. And somewhere deep in the ship's AI systems, a subtle resonance pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. It was recognition, and recognition in this case was more powerful than any credits, more powerful than any alien influence. Elias had made the first move. The warship had responded, and the galaxy had begun to notice. The hall buzzed with anticipation as the next round of bidding was about to begin. Captain Elias Wren stood at the center, calm and composed, his eyes locked on the legendary warship. Around him, alien bidders fidgeted, their fingers twitching over control pads, their faces reflecting frustration and disbelief. They were seasoned competitors, skilled in manipulation and intimidation, yet none had ever faced a moment like this. The warship, Orion's Pride, hovered slightly above the pedestal, its hull gleaming like a jewel under the hall's lights. Its sensors rotated slowly, scanning the room, but always returning to Elias. Every subtle movement seemed deliberate, precise. A soft hum, almost melodic, resonated through the hall, filling the air with quiet tension. Observers leaned forward, recognizing that this was no ordinary auction. Something extraordinary was unfolding. Xylar, the reptilian merchant, slammed a claw against his console in frustration. "This is impossible! It bends to him! No human should command such recognition!" His tail lashed behind him, a sign of growing anger. The alien with 6 arms, who had attempted to overbid Elias in the previous round, gritted his teeth. Even the Cephlorians, normally reserved and silent, whispered among themselves, their glowing organs flickering nervously. Elias, however, remained unmoved. He had anticipated this reaction. The warship's acknowledgement was not a fluke. It was a deliberate response to intent, courage, and calm authority. Elias understood that this moment was bigger than credits, bigger than competition. He was standing at the threshold of something historic. A human, earning the respect of a machine that had never bowed to anyone outside its original guild. The auctioneer drone hovered silently, sensors rotating rapidly, scanning every movement and expression in the hall. The warship exhibits unprecedented acknowledgement toward Captain Elias Wren, it announced. Bidders. Please take note, this is not a mere coincidence. A murmur ran through the crowd. Aliens exchanged uncertain glances, some whispering warnings, others questioning what they had just seen. Humans were rarely seen as equals in these elite auctions, let alone as figures commanding the attention of legendary machines. And yet, here stood Elias, seemingly untouched by the pressure. Suddenly, the warship made a movement that left everyone in stunned silence. Its massive bow, polished and gleaming, slowly lowered in a deliberate gesture. In alien culture, this was the ultimate sign of respect, a gesture reserved for those of exceptional worth. The energy fields along the hull shimmered, cascading light across the hall. Whispers erupted into audible exclamations. The auctioneer drone paused, its sensors analyzing the action. Remarkable, it said. The Orion's Pride has executed a ceremonial bow, a sign of respect and recognition previously unseen for a human. The crowd froze. Some froze in awe, others in fear. Whispers spread rapidly. The warship bows to a human. The words echoed through the hall, carried by astonishment and disbelief. Even the rival bidders found themselves momentarily silenced, unsure of how to react. Xylar hissed, his scales bristling. It obeys him. It acknowledges him. This defies every law of hierarchy and expectation. He stared at Elias, who remained calm, standing tall, his presence commanding the room without force. Elias allowed himself a small smile, though he did not speak. Actions, he knew, carried far more weight than words in this moment. The bow was more than ceremonial. It was a statement. It was the warship itself declaring that Elias possessed qualities worthy of respect, qualities that no amount of credits, intimidation, or alien influence could command. The alien with 6 arms attempted to regain control of the situation. This is absurd. A human cannot maintain such authority over a ship of this caliber. It will not last. His voice echoed across the hall, but even he could not hide the edge of uncertainty creeping into his tone. Elias finally spoke, calm and deliberate. Respect is earned, he said. His voice carried through the hall clearly, calm but strong. Not bought, not taken, earned. The simplicity of his words resonated, echoing in a way that no alien had expected. It was not arrogance. It was understanding, and the crowd sensed it immediately. The warship's sensors pulsed in response. The subtle rhythm almost like a heartbeat. A faint glow spread across its hull, bathing the hall in shimmering light. Aliens stared, some in disbelief, others in awe. For the first time, a human had not only participated in the auction, but had become a symbol of leadership and recognition in a room dominated by alien power. The Cephlorians whispered among themselves, their glowing organs dimming slightly in thought. Perhaps humans are underestimated, one said softly. He has commanded recognition without force. As the bow completed its deliberate motion, the hall fell into stunned silence. The aliens had not expected this. The human did not demand it. He did not threaten it. And yet, the warship had acknowledged him fully. For centuries, ships like Orion's Pride had been loyal only to their creators and chosen commanders. To see it bow to a human was unprecedented. Xylar's claws clicked nervously against his console. We have underestimated him, he admitted reluctantly. He is unlike any human we have encountered. Even he could not deny the truth. The warship had chosen, and the choice was clear. Elias remained still, aware of the significance of the moment. He understood that recognition from the ship was not merely symbolic. It was a signal to the galaxy that humans could earn respect and influence in ways previously unimagined. The energy fields around the warship shimmered, pulsing gently, a subtle acknowledgement of trust and alignment. The auctioneer drone hovered silently, its sensors capturing every reaction. "Bidders, the warship's gesture has caused a pause in proceedings," it announced. "We will resume bidding shortly. But note that the ship's acknowledgement may influence future decisions." The crowd was in disarray. Some murmured about the implications, others speculated on the human's potential. Aliens who had once scoffed now studied Elias closely, reassessing assumptions and strategies. He was no longer just a bidder. He was a presence that commanded attention and respect, simply by standing calm and composed before the legendary ship. Elias understood that the next moments were critical. The bow was more than a gesture, it was a challenge. He had gained recognition, but now he needed to maintain trust and authority. Force or intimidation would not work. The warship responded to intent, to understanding, to courage, tempered by patience. One of the alien bidders, a sleek, silver-scaled creature with multiple eyes, stepped forward, attempting to raise the bid aggressively. 170 million credits, it shouted, hoping to unsettle Elias. Elias paused, studying the bidder. Then he spoke calmly. 175 million credits. His tone carried more than numbers. It carried command through clarity and intent. The warship's sensors adjusted, focusing fully on Elias. A subtle pulse ran along its hull, a sign of continued recognition and alignment. The crowd gasped. Alien bidders exchanged uneasy glances. This was no longer about credits. It was about presence, courage, and respect. Xylar growled under his breath, his voice low and filled with frustration. "The ship, it bends only to him. We cannot force it. We cannot outbid him in the usual way. He has something we do not understand." Elias allowed the silence to settle. He did not rush. He did not attempt to intimidate. His presence alone was enough. The human had become a center of attention, a force of calm authority in a room built for competition and manipulation. As the auction continued, the warship remained aligned with Elias, its bow slightly lowered, its sensors attentive. The gesture was no longer ceremonial. It was functional, a sign that the ship had recognized a leader. The hall, once filled with chatter and competition, was now quiet, the weight of what had happened sinking in. The Cephlorians whispered once more, their voices barely audible. The human commands respect not by wealth, but by understanding. Hours seemed to pass in this tension-filled atmosphere. Aliens who had once dismissed Elias as inexperienced were now wary, some even respectful. The warship had chosen him, and in doing so had altered the dynamics of power in the auction hall. Finally, as the first session drew to a close, Elias stepped back slightly, allowing the warship to remain focused on him. The aliens departed murmuring, some in awe, some in disbelief, but all recognizing that the human had achieved something extraordinary. Elias glanced at the warship one last time before leaving the hall. Its sensors pulsed softly, a quiet acknowledgement of trust and recognition. He knew this was only the beginning. The warship's loyalty had been earned, but the true challenges lay ahead. In the quiet of the observation deck, Elias reflected on the day. The galaxy would talk about this moment for years. A human had stood among the elite of interstellar civilization and earned recognition from a legendary warship. It was more than a victory in an auction. It was proof that courage, patience, and understanding could command respect, even where wealth and power alone had failed. And deep within the ship's systems, a subtle pulse echoed, a quiet heartbeat of acknowledgement. The Orion's pride had chosen its commander, and that commander was human. The hall was still charged with tension from the events of the previous day. Word had spread quickly through the interstellar network. A human had not only participated in the legendary Xeron Prime auction, but had earned the respect of the Orion's Pride, a warship that had never bowed to anyone outside its original guild. The buzz of whispers, disbelief, and speculation filled every corner of the station. Captain Elias Wren returned to the auction hall early, calm and composed. Alien bidders were already assembling, but their demeanor had changed. Skepticism had given way to cautious respect. Some tried to mask it with displays of authority, while others simply studied Elias in quiet fascination. For the first time, a human presence commanded the attention of every elite faction in the hall without a hint of aggression. The auctioneer drone hovered overhead, sensors scanning the room. "Bidders," it announced. "The final round of the auction will begin. Note, the Orion's Pride continues to exhibit recognition of Captain Elias Wren." Its voice carried clearly, translated across dozens of languages, emphasizing the unusual nature of this moment. Xylar, the reptilian merchant, slithered closer to his console, tail flicking nervously. "It obeys him. I cannot believe this," he muttered. "Every calculation, every tactic, useless. The ship bends to him." Elias raised a hand calmly, signaling that he was ready. His calm authority filled the hall, drawing attention even from the most skeptical observers. "I will continue my bid," he said steadily. 175 million credits." Murmurs spread instantly. Some aliens exchanged doubtful glances. The human's presence alone had shifted the balance of power. Now, every move he made seemed measured, deliberate, and wise. The warship pulsed again, its energy fields shimmering. Its bow remained slightly lowered, a gesture of acknowledgement. For a few moments, silence hung in the hall. Then, the rival bidders began to react. Some tried to intimidate, others attempted technical manipulation, but every effort failed. The Orion's Pride remained aligned with Elias, its systems unyielding. A sleek, silver-scaled alien attempted to force an override on the ship's controls, believing that sheer technical power could outmatch human authority. "Enough!" it shouted. "The human cannot control it. We will take command ourselves." Elias remained calm, analyzing the attempt with sharp focus. He had anticipated such moves. "Attempting to force control of the ship will not succeed," he said clearly. "It chooses its commander, not the one with the strongest threat." The warship responded instantly. Its shields glimmered not in defense, but as a protective alignment with Elias. The aliens' attempts failed, and the crowd erupted in quiet astonishment. This was no longer just an auction. It was a demonstration of trust and recognition, a moment that would be remembered for generations. Xylar hissed in frustration. "It cannot be! A human, commanding the Orion's Pride? Impossible!" Elias stepped forward slightly, his eyes meeting those of the rival bidders. "Power alone does not earn respect," he said calmly. "Understanding, patience, and courage do." His words carried weight far beyond the hall's walls. The warship's energy bow shifted slightly downward again, completing a deliberate ceremonial gesture. The room fell silent. Aliens who had once doubted Elias now realized that they were witnessing something historic. This was not a matter of wealth, politics, or force. It was a symbol of leadership and recognition in the galaxy. The auctioneer drone hovered above, sensors capturing every subtle detail. Observation. Captain Elias Wren demonstrates qualities that the Orion's Pride recognizes as worthy of command. This is unprecedented in a human. Murmurs spread rapidly. Some alien bidders stepped back, realizing that further attempts at intimidation would be futile. Others watched closely, learning from Elias's calm and deliberate approach. The human had not just won recognition, he had set an example that many would carry forward. Finally, after the last attempt at a counterbid failed, the auctioneer drone announced with authority, "The Orion's Pride is hereby acknowledged under the command of Captain Elias Wren. The auction concludes. The warship's recognition of this human is complete. Gasps filled the hall. Some aliens exchanged stunned glances. Even those who had sought to dominate the auction now understood that the human had earned something far greater than victory in a transaction. Elias had changed perceptions across the galaxy. The warship's bow lowered once more, this time fully, as if confirming its loyalty to its new commander. The energy fields along its hull pulsed softly, a quiet signal of alignment and trust. Those present could feel it, not just in the readings or the displays, but in the weight of the moment itself. Xylar slithered back, hissing low under his breath. He has achieved what no alien has done in centuries, he muttered. The human has earned respect, not by wealth or force, but by understanding. Elias allowed himself a small smile, but his composure never wavered. This was only the beginning. Owning the Orion's pride was not merely a prize. It was a responsibility. The galaxy would watch him now, and his next moves would carry the weight of expectation, hope, and curiosity. The Cephlorians approached him cautiously, their glowing organs flickering. "Human," one said softly, "you have shown that courage and wisdom can command machines. Many will study your methods for years." Elias nodded. "Respect is not given freely," he said. "It must be earned through actions, understanding, and trust. This ship has chosen to recognize me, but that trust must be maintained every day." The hall began to clear, but the whispers and stories would not stop. Across Xeron Prime Station, news spread quickly. The human who commanded the Orion's pride. Aliens who had once doubted humans now reconsidered their assumptions. In distant sectors, young cadets and scholars would hear the story, inspired by the example of a single human who had stood calm and resolute in a room of centuries-old hierarchies. Elias walked toward the ship, his boots echoing softly against the metallic floor. The warship's sensors followed him, its energy fields shimmering in acknowledgement. For the first time, a human would command a vessel of such legendary stature, not through force, not through intimidation, but through courage, patience, and wisdom. As he boarded the Orion's pride, Elias felt a quiet resonance through the ship's hull. It was not just machinery responding to a command. It was recognition, trust, and alignment. The warship had chosen him, and in doing so, it had made a statement to the galaxy. Humans were not to be underestimated. He activated the ship's core systems, noting the precise and deliberate responses. Every function, every sensor, every subsystem responded not just to commands, but to his intent. The ship had aligned with him fully, confirming that recognition and trust were now mutual. From the observation deck of the Orion's pride, Elias gazed at Xeron Prime Station. He knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of opportunities and challenges. But he also knew one thing. Humans could rise to meet these challenges, not by overwhelming force, but by intelligence, courage, and understanding. The warship's hum filled the corridors, a steady, calm sound as if echoing Elias's own determination. Every alien on the station would remember this day. Every whisper, every story would carry the lesson. A human had earned recognition, respect, and trust where many thought it impossible. Elias prepared the ship for departure, plotting a course toward unexplored sectors. The Orion's pride, legendary and now loyal to a human, awaited the adventures that lay ahead. As the ship rose from the auction pedestal, its energy fields glimmering with subtle light, Elias felt a quiet pride, not in victory, but in what had been demonstrated. The galaxy would take note. Humans had arrived, and sometimes recognition and respect could achieve what force alone never could. Elias took one last look at the station before engaging the ship's engines. The stars stretched out before him, vast and full of possibilities. With the Orion's pride at his command, he was ready to meet the challenges of the galaxy, not as a conqueror, but as a leader who had earned trust and whose courage had inspired respect across countless worlds. The adventure was just beginning, and the story of the human who commanded a legendary warship would echo across the stars for generations to come.